The following are my top movies of 2023. Number 10, The Killer. This is a return to form for David Fincher as he directs this Hitman-centric thriller starring Michael Fassbender as a methodical and precise hitman who has a penchant for the Smiths, and despite his OCD level of preparation still flubs a hit and has to go on a quest to avenge those who tried to kill his girlfriend. I really enjoyed this movie. It was tense, it was moody, and it was almost film noirish in the way that you have Fassbender narrating the story. Definitely a return to form for Fincher, but be warned, if you're going into this expecting John Wick, you are going to be very disappointed. Again, this movie is a tense, slow burn, and is more John Huston than John Woo. Number 9, The Equalizer Part 3. This is another return to form for Denzel Washington as the titular Equalizer Robert McCall, who finds himself in Italy taking on the mafia on their home turf. Like the prior movies, the action is slick and graphic but never gratuitous, and again you can see why Washington keeps on coming back to this franchise again and again. Sadly, this seems to be the last outing for the character, but I have to say this is quite the grand hurrah to go out on. Number 8, Sizu. Jalmari Hellander's follow-up to Rare Exports and Big Game is this absolutely badass World War II revenge movie. This movie is essentially what you get if you crossed a Sam Fuller World War II movie with a Sergio Leone spaghetti western. Our main character is a former Finnish commando turned prospector who struck a vein of gold and has to contend with a bunch of Nazis who are in retreat at the end of the Second World War. Unlike The Equalizer 3, this is incredibly graphic, gory and gruesome. However, it's all in good fun because they're fucking Nazis, and you know what? Nothing's better than watching a Nazi get fucked up. And despite all the gore and carnage, Hallander shoots the film absolutely exquisitely. Despite the bombed out landscape of Finland, there's something beautiful about the wild, rugged wilderness of the country. Number 7. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Love him or hate him, you have to admit Seth Rogen has saved comic book adaptations. Between Invincible and The Boys, the man has worked wonders with those properties, and this is no exception either. After the farcical Michael Bay movies, we finally get a decent TMNT movie with a whole lot of humour, a whole lot of fun and a shitload of heart. This movie is fantastic in no short order, thanks to the fact that Rogen realises he needs actual teenagers voicing the Turtles. You actually feel that the Turtles are finally teenagers. They talk and behave like teenagers, they're awkward like teenagers, and they don't know how to act around girls, much like teenagers. Between the fantastic voice cast and the amazing animation, this is a must for anyone who is a TMNT fan. Number 6, The Creator. Gareth Edwards returns to hard sci-fi with The Creator. Set in a dystopian world where machines have taken over, it's up to a lone soldier played by David John Washington to retrieve a package. Things are more complicated than one expects though when it turns out said package is an advanced AI in the form of a small child. If you're expecting a movie like The Terminator, you would be dead wrong. Again, this is Gareth Edwards we're talking about. He made a romantic monster movie with his film debut, and like that, this movie is far more cerebral than one might think. It's sad because this movie did not do well in the box office, but is an absolute feast for the eyes, and if someone wanted to do a Western anime adaptation, I think they should give Gareth Edwards a call, because this is the Ghost in the Shell movie we should have got. Number 5, Evil Dead Rise. A return to form with the franchise thanks to fellow Irishman Lee Cronin. The director of Hole in the Ground gives a whole new spin to the franchise and sees the Deadites lay siege to an apartment building where two sisters must fend them off and protect their young children. Cronin strikes a good balance between humour and horror, and while not going as visceral as Fede Alvarez's 2013 Evil Dead movie, there are some scenes that are not for the squeamish. And while some franchise purists may not like to change a venue, I think this is an interesting direction to take the franchise in. Number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. While the House of Mouse's MCU seems to be falling apart, James Gunn left it with at least one decent parting gift. Volume 3 is an absolutely beautiful swan song for the franchise. It's essentially an emotional roller coaster that has us delve into the background of Rocket Raccoon and see why he's such an irritable little critter. I dare even the hardest motherfucker not to cry at the end of the flashback sequences for Rocket. They tear your heart out and literally stomp on it. It is that emotionally effective. That paired with the most compelling MCU villain we've gotten in ages makes this an MCU movie adrift in a pool of shite that you must watch. Number 3, Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. This is a follow-up to the fantastic 2014 Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. The animation is more slick, there's more characters, and there's more at jeopardy in this movie. Again, like the prior movie, we focus on Miles Morales, who is now enrolling in college and is trying to juggle being Spider-Man and his new academia. To complicate matters even further, Spider-Gwen turns up and tells him there's an entire legion of Spider-Men from different universes working together to save the multiverse. However, when Miles requests to join, he is refused by Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099, voiced by Oscar Isaacs. The thing I love about this movie is, unlike the MCU, this gets the multiverse storyline and angle so right. It makes it genuinely fun. You want a cowboy Spider-Man? You got a cowboy Spider-Man. You want Lego Spider-Man? You got him too. It's ironic that while Sony seems to fuck up everything else, they get the one thing that the MCU can't seem to get a grasp on: the whole multiverse idea and premise. Add to that fantastic voice actors and exquisite animation. This is an absolute must watch. Number 2, When Evil Lurks. Argentinian horror director Damien Rugna gives us a possession movie with a twist, as we're dragged into a world where demon possession is the norm and the demons in question are referred to as the Rotten. We follow two brothers, Pedro and Jimmy, as they attempt to pacify their land, only to make things worse and worse as this twisted story unfolds. Rugna doesn't rely on cheap tricks or Blumhouse scares to engage the audience. There are indeed some shocking moments, but these are meant to linger with the audience and not just give a cheap, forgettable fright. I think for some people the real horror is the main character's inability to accept or understand the advice they're given, and as a result make the situation worse time and time again. So if you're going to check this movie out expecting a Blumhouse by the numbers horror, be warned, this is not it. This movie is not for the faint of heart, but is definitely a compelling horror watch and easily earns its spot at number 2. Before I pick number 1, here are 2 honourable mentions. Oppenheimer, fantastic movie, love Cillian Murphy and love Christopher Nolan. However, I didn't feel a biopic required the runtime this movie had, and as a result it negated it from my list. Also, the Barbie movie, very fun, loved Margot Robbie, but was not a fan of this. Not that it was a bad movie, it's just I'm not its target demographic, but still worth checking out. And my number 1 pick for favourite movies of 2023 has to be Godzilla -1. Directed by Takashi Yamazumi on a budget of 15 million, this movie kicks arse. Yamazumi does something very clever and turned this into a period piece, setting it directly after the end of the Second World War and sees the nation of Japan in absolute ruin. Follow a number of characters, one in particular a failed kamikaze pilot who finds redemption in making a makeshift family with survivors from the bombing. However, it seems when our unlikely family are about to put their lives back together, Godzilla surfaces and wreaks havoc upon the newly rebuilt Japan. Yamazumi is clever because he populates this movie with characters we come to love, and when they're put in jeopardy, we are literally on a razor's edge worrying about them. He also explores other complex issues such as PTSD and patriotism. While the Japanese people want to be over the war, and while the country itself surrendered, its people's drive, ingenuity and pride did not surrender. and it shows that while they may have been defeated, they're still willing to put up a battle to protect what's theirs, not the Empire of Japan, but the country and the people itself. This movie is an excellent addition to the Godzilla legacy, and if you are a kaiju fan, this is one to definitely check out. So guys, that has been my top 10 movies of 2023. Let me know what you think of my list in the comments below, and let me know what are your top flicks of 2023 in the comments below. My name's Martin, this has been the Trash Picture Show, and I hope you have an awesome 2024.